going to kick your week off right this morning. We've got a great guest on to talk about some interesting things this morning. And if you're looking to buy a house, to sell a house, or if you're just nosy about how many are being bought and sold in and around Franklin County, this is going to be the show for you. And then after our break, we're going to get into the idea of buying foreclosed homes. There's been a lot of talk about that here recently, so that'll be in the second part of our interview. But we've got Betty Kingery on, well known to you here on Cable 12, but wearing a little bit different hat this morning than we're used to seeing you.
That's right. I serve on the board of directors for Virginia Realtors, so I represent realtors throughout the state.
It is kind of explained to folks, and you kind of hit a little bit there, you know, what this board does. You know, what's its main purpose?
Well, if you speak to Billy, it's a different story, but we just help guide some of the things that go on as far as through the state, and also we're huge into legislation and what happens to the homeowner. We are the representative of the homeowner, and we go to bat for the homeowner. Flood insurance, different things that affect a homeowner. That's what we're busy with, to lobby and just make sure that the homeowner is not crushed by some rule or regulation. I mean, we have enough of that anyway, but we're huge into advocacy.
Well, what is it that we're going to kick off the morning with here? I know we usually talk facts and figures, so what are the numbers that we're looking at this morning?
Well, low inventory, and we have that throughout the state. I think it's throughout the country. During 2018, sales were good. Better probably than 2017. We feel like we're coming into another strong year for 2019, but as far as inventory, it just, you know, you mentioned that we're going to talk about foreclosures a little bit in the second segment, but last year we didn't have the number of foreclosures that we were used to, or had, I don't know what a normal is in real estate right now. But since 2010, and we look at, wow, that was 9 years ago. 2009, around here, probably 2008, 2009 is when the bubble burst. And so then we had a flood of foreclosures. I know that probably a third of our market was foreclosures. And so when you look at, we didn't have as many foreclosures last year, so that affected our inventory. We didn't have new construction last year, so that really affected our market. And then the third thing was that folks were afraid to put their house on the market for fear that they wouldn't find a house that they liked better. You know, folks were ready to upsize or downsize, and in some cases, if they were upsizing, they decided, well, I'll just renovate. I'll add on to my house. If that was possible, many folks did that. So there were three factors that really affected our market. So right now it's the same thing. If I look back at the amount of inventory that we had last year versus this year, it's even less. So, you know, and we look at Franklin County, that's kind of where we're zoned in on. And new construction, I think the contractors, it's hard to build a house and be in the market that they want to be. You know, we find that probably, again, from 100 to 200,000, those are probably some of our fastest selling homes. And there's just not enough. A lot of folks say, well, I want a newer home. Well, we don't necessarily find the newer home because they're just not out there. We went through a period of years that there were no spec homes that were built. So we don't have a lot of that to choose from.
And talking about that inventory being low, are you seeing that some houses are sitting on the market for extended periods of time while others are selling a lot quicker? Or
it depends on the price range. You know, maybe for a first-time home buyer, maybe they want to be somewhere between 80 and 120,000, and there are just not many of those. I think that I pulled up, there were 59 homes for sale in the 100 to 200,000 range. And so when you look at the number of buyers out there, I think that right now on the market, or I should say in Franklin County, there are 90 homes under contract. Okay, to begin with, there's only 430 that we have for sale. And those are all spread out. I made a couple of little notes about, there are 25 homes between 100 and lower, or let's say 0 to 100,000. I noticed there were 3 properties for sale that are under 50,000. You know, one is 20,000, 2 more are 45,000. Well, you get what you pay for many times. I mean, you can just look at that as far as if you're going to purchase a home that's that cheap, what am I really getting? What is wrong with it? What have I got to do with it? How much money do I have to put into it so to make it livable? And now we have had some homes that were less than 50,000, and what happened with that, and I'm referring to a foreclosure that we had, they started out at $5,500. Of course, that created a real, what am I trying to say, activity as far as on this home. And of course, the sale price went 6 times more than that. So once you have the interest of all these people, and if you have 8 to 10 offers on a property, you're going to end up boosting the price. And I find that happens every now and then, that something is priced low so that you do get multiple offers.
Absolutely.
And so of course for us, you've got to be careful with multiple offers, because some people don't want to be in a bidding war. They go away. So it's a give and take for everything. But anyway, back to, so we have 25 houses for sale that are less than 100,000. That's not many homes. No, between the 100 and 200, I mentioned already, there were 59 homes. You know, that's really not a lot either. 200 to 300,000, there's 82. Okay, so then 300 to 400,000, there's 74. So the numbers, and again, I'm just looking at Franklin County. You go from 500,000 to 750, there's 85,000. 85 homes for sale. And then we go up to 1,000,000, 24 more, and then actually in Franklin County there are 43, 45 homes for sale that are over $1 million. Okay, not everybody can afford that. So our inventory is just super low. You look at the number of homes that you have for sale, you look at the number that go under contract or are sold during a month's time, and that's when you come up with what we call an absorption rate. A lot of folks will say, well, how long will it take my house to sell? Well, there's 3 things it's going to be dependent upon: price, location, and how does it show? You know, is it in pristine condition? Can somebody look at that house and determine, oh, how can I put my things in this home? Or are they busy looking at all the stuff and you can't visualize, how am I going to make this my home? So in some of the price ranges, you know, it's going to be on the market a while. But back down to that 100 to 200,000 range, probably a max of 4 months. I mean, based on the inventory that we have. And even when I looked back at trying to come up with an average number of homes that sold, I went back to, because we look at, or a lot of folks say, well, it's winter time, things aren't selling. Well, they have been selling because the inventory is low. But I went back to January of 2018 and went to June. They gave me a 6-month, because I was trying to compare, you know, what's probably going to happen this year. And yes, it's strong, but I found that, you know, even during the spring market, if you price the house right, it's in a good location. Of course, we can't move the houses, so you're still looking about 4 months in that lower price range. Now, in a higher price range, again, it only takes one person, but some of those homes have been on the market for years. And again, we're just waiting for that right person to come along. It just takes one. And if you liked your house, somebody else is going to like it too.
Yes.
And as far as location-wise, it just is dependent upon several factors, but the important thing is price it right. Don't chase the market. We're passionate about our homes, so therefore we think it's the most valuable home on the market, but you've got to be sensible about what is selling. And of course, if somebody purchases a house and they need a mortgage, it's got to appraise. So some folks are looking at, wow, my house is worth a lot more than that. Well, you've got to compare it to other homes, other similar homes that are going to be compared to that. And so you've just got to look at it seriously and don't chase the market. Put it on the market to sell right then and there, and then it will. And as long as you have somewhere to go, then you're fine. So again, absorption rate is going to determine whether we're in a buyer's market or a seller's market. We're still more in a seller's market because there's so few homes. So now that has bumped up the price of houses. When you look at the average sale price of a home, we find that it's bumped up a little bit. And we kind of look at trends, and in talking to agents throughout the state of Virginia, we're all very similar. In Northern Virginia, not enough inventory. A lot of folks are thinking about, well, I want it, now that folks can work out of their homes, which starts another conversation about broadband around here and the push to get that here. But a lot of folks are working out of their homes, but they need strong internet service. And so a lot of folks sell in Northern Virginia and they come here. That's always been kind of a trend. We look at what's going on in the market in Northern Virginia, maybe the eastern part of the state too. It may not be happening for us in Franklin County, but it usually trickles down and becomes a trend here too. So it's all here. I mean, low inventory is just everywhere. There are a few pockets that you see new construction. There's some construction companies that are still in the market and building spec homes. But throughout the Roanoke Valley, there are not many choices. And they're definitely not the choices here in Franklin County.
And you kind of already hit on if you're a seller, having your property on the market, how important that is. If somebody wants to buy it, it has to be on the market for that to happen. Pricing it right location, and having it ready to go and show. What about for somebody who's looking to buy a home? You talk, especially in that price range where things are moving a little bit quicker. What do they need to have in place? And we've talked about this before, but it's so important. What ducks do they need to have in a row to be ready when they find that home to be able to put that offer in and not let it slip away?
I'll go back to when some of these lower priced homes, and we've had multiple offers, you've got to know how you're going to pay for it. If you're going to pay cash, fine. Then you have to show proof of where that cash is coming from. And maybe you're going to borrow the money from a boss, a friend, a relative, parents, whoever. You need to have that conversation with them before this happens. Because if say a home comes on the market on a Friday or a Thursday, and we have a holiday on a Monday, and you can't get to the bank in time, so you've got to be prepared. And so if you're borrowing the money, you need to speak with a lender and have a letter of pre-qualification so that you are ready to act. You don't know when it's going to happen, but you have to be ready. So as a buyer, if you want to get in on some of the lower priced properties, you got to be ready. So, have that lender letter in hand. If you're using cash from maybe your employer, then you've got to have a letter from their bank. You need a letter from them showing that they are going to provide the money. They're going to be the bank for you. But then in some cases, that person may be using an equity line. They may be, you don't know.
Sure.
But the important thing is you've got to show proof of where it's coming from. And many times, if in a foreclosure, they may not allow that as far as you're getting money from somewhere else. Sometimes the money's got to be in your bank account for so many days or so many weeks. They're all kind of a little bit different. But the important thing is you got to be prepared. So as a buyer, be ready when you kind of search. I mean, everybody's searching online, it seems now. Probably 99% of our buyers have already picked out homes. They're national real estate websites that they search on. They're very user-friendly. So it's easy for them to zone in on a particular area. A lot of times folks want to be in a certain school district, or they want privacy. They want to be in town. Whatever it is that the person wants, you can zone in and you can filter through these sites and get it just to pop up what you want. I mean, it's very easy this day and time, whether you're on your smartphone or whatever you're using. There are ways to filter and get exactly what you want. And so once you figure that out, but of course you've got to know your price range.
Yes.
If you're going to get a mortgage, you've got to speak with the lender and know what you qualify for. And you don't always want to, maybe you qualify for a maximum of $200,000, but you realize what my payment is by the time I add my mortgage that includes my taxes and my insurance. You got to make sure that's working well with your monthly, whatever salary you're getting, and maybe you qualify without your spouse, and at least that's extra income. But it's all of these things that you look at your credit score, you want to take the highest score because that's where you're going to get the lowest interest rate, and put it all together, or if you want both of you on the loan, if there is a spouse involved. So it's all these things that you really need to know. And again, because it's low inventory, you just must be ready.
Yes.
Or you'll lose out on that favorite house. I mean, we've had houses come on the market in the morning and they've got a contract by the night. Wow. We've had them come on the market, 2 days later you have 3 offers. And they may all be full price offers, as a matter of fact. So, then that seller is going to look and see, okay, who's paying cash? Who's doing a home inspection? What are the things that are right for me as far as for me to accept? It's not always the highest price. And that seller has that option to choose. So again, as a buyer, be ready, have everything in order.
And we know that everybody opens up the classifieds or goes online and looks at the classified ads. You may see a property that's going to be auctioned off on the courthouse steps. And a lot of people say, well, that's a great idea. That's something that I want to get into, but they have no idea where to get started. So Betty, I open up the paper, I see the property, I'm interested in it, I see the date, the time, the location of the auction. What do I do next?
Some of the first things I'd recommend for you to do is go to one of the auctions and observe. Now, not always are they the same, but go see what's happening. There's usually, and depending on the home or depending on the location, there may only be 1 or 2 other people there other than you. And then again, depending on the home and the location, there may be a dozen. I don't think that I've been to one that has had a huge crowd. But what you have to do as a buyer, of course, is register. In the paper, it will give you a low amount as far as where it's going to start. And so you have to have your finances in order. Once again, here we go with the financials, because many times the folks that have come to those auctions are investors. They've been to the auction before, they know how to make it work, and they know how to buy those properties. So you're up against them in practically every auction that you go to. So, but you've got to either have cash in your pocket or a cashier's check for the amount that you're going to bid. So, and the tricky part of it is knowing exactly how far you're going to go. And again, they do vary as far as you absolutely cannot take a personal check with you or expect to bid and you're telling them, I've got this amount of money in my account, I can write. They will not accept that. So it's got to be a cashier's check or cash. So you've got to kind of know, well, where's my max going to be? Now, something that you need to do prior, okay, so I've recommended for you to go to one and just get an idea of how it works. And that may be a good one, that you're a good example. And then again, it may not, because, I mean, you went to one and you think, okay, I got this down. I see how they registered. I see how their funds were. And, you know, possibly that's a good sampling, but maybe it's going to be different the next time you go yourself. But I recommend for you, once you find a home in the classified that you're interested, you go do a title search. Okay, an individual probably has no idea what to do at the courthouse. So there's another obstacle that you may come into. You know, it might be something that you decide that, I'm on an adventure. I'm going down to the courthouse, and the folks in the courthouse are usually very good to help you, to guide you, to get you going in the right direction. But again, just begin reading and try to find out as much as you can about that property and liens on the property, because you do not want to purchase a property at a cheap price and then find that for some reason the second deed of trust got ahead of the first one, because it's the first deed of trust that's going to rule that property. So let's say that you went down to the courthouse and you got what you thought was an excellent deal. It was a home that you had looked on the county records and you found that it was assessed at $200,000. And you just purchased it for $60,000 at the sale. But then, for some reason, the second deed got in front of the first. So then you notice in the paper that, there's the address of my house again. What is going on here? And so you find that there's a first deed of trust. Something got confused. And so now, in order for you to salvage what you paid at that first auction, you've got to go back, or you either have to get an attorney to help you to purchase and to pay off that first deed of trust. So there's risk involved here if you don't know what you're doing. So, because when you close on that house, you want a clear warrant, you want a general warranty deed free of all encumbrances. So you've got to know. So back to your search at the courthouse. If you don't feel comfortable, especially at first, when you start doing this, hire somebody to do a search for you. That's probably going to be the best insurance that you could have as you head into something like that. You've got to find out, are there tax liens? You know, the IRS is going to get their money first.
Sure.
You know, is there a first? Is there a second on it? What else? Are there mechanics liens against this home? You've got to search and make sure all of that stuff is cleared, because at the courthouse, somebody just comes, they have their piece of paper, we start the auction at $40,000 or wherever. Everybody just kind of looks at each other waiting for somebody to make the move.
Right.
And so then maybe somebody starts bidding. I bid, and you think, well, I can go a little bit. You can go $1 higher than me, even if you want. Or you can jump it up several thousand. That's up to you. And as long as the bank will accept what you are bidding on, then you can close on the property. And they want you to close within 30 days usually. Every now and then it's some that want you to close within 15. So here again, you need cash. Cash is king, I think, when you're trying to buy something at the courthouse steps. So you've got to have money ready, because if you were getting a loan, you've got to go through the appraisal, you've got to go through all of these hoops before we can get to the closing table, and you may not be able to do it in time. So a home is sold on the courthouse steps. Maybe it's not. Maybe that home that you wanted went way higher than you had expected it to, so the bank takes it back. And that's when then it comes out on the real estate market, where it will appear on the multiple listing service. So there are different agents in different areas of the state that kind of specialize in just foreclosures. And so the bank or the asset company will get back in touch with those folks, and they'll list those properties, and so they come out on the market like other homes. And so of course when they are sold, which you'll get a general warranty deed, or they'll tell you what's going on or what's up with that property, and it's a lot less risk at that time. Because many of these properties, now if you know, maybe you watched this, maybe this home is your neighbor, so you know that they didn't have water, and that's why they just let it go. So either you know that you can have another well drilled, or maybe you already know that they've drilled 5 wells, and they all go dry, even as wet as it was in 2018. You know that that's not the property for you.
Sure.
So you got to search history. Again, it's high risk for you to be bidding on properties at the courthouse steps, but you can get some really good deals. I mean, there's homes that have been sold for $4,000. There's some that have sold for $17,000. You never know. But again, you've got to be prepared when you go, and again, search at the courthouse or hire somebody. But again, this deal of knowing whether the well is the issue, and that's why they're letting the house go. You know, was it just not enough water there? You know, what was the deal? Now there's a home that is south of Rocky Mount that is in foreclosure. It's actually it's on our market now, but the problem with it, that home was on a property that was a couple of acres, maybe it was 2.5, and at some point it got subdivided. So we have a house that on one lot, the house is within 5 feet of that property. Okay, so we've got 3 lots here, and the house is in the middle. So now my house is too close to the edge over here, so I don't know how that's going to happen as far as how it's going to turn out. But then the other vacant lot is where the drain field is. Okay, so now we have a house that's kind of in a downslope. So in the back of the house, it goes right up the hill. In the front of the house, it goes up the hill. So where are you going to put a drain field?
Sure.
So, you know, you've got to look at some of that. Also, when you're looking at the entrance to that property, it's also on that vacant lot that includes the drain field. So that's the way to access the property. You go look at the property and you realize that, wow, if I have to put another driveway in there, it's going to go straight down to the house. Whereas now it's kind of a curve and you gradually get down there. It's not just a straight down sliding board type. So there, yes, that's on our market. It's a great price. It's a good house. But what are you gonna do?
Sure.
You know, how are you gonna handle that? So again, you've just got to search and know. And some of these properties, of course, they'll come out on the real estate website that it's a pre-foreclosure. That's maybe that's the light that beam triggers on for you to start looking. If that's a house that you're interested in, and you know that's a $200,000 house, and they're saying they're probably going to start it at $85,000, you know, go right away and find out what the deal is.
Sure.
You know, are there encumbrances somewhere that I'm not going to be able to get title insurance? Now, if you're paying cash for something, some of the attorneys, are very few of them though, will let you close the property without title insurance. Now, and that gets into another story, so maybe we can talk about title insurance or have somebody come on and help with that. As far as, why do I need title insurance? What's the deal with that? But again, that's another conversation. But again, I don't want to scare people as far as buying homes on the courthouse steps, but we've heard of huge, terrible stories that have happened, and we've heard of wonderful stories that have happened from purchases on the courthouse steps. Absolutely. It's just, you've got to be aware and know what you're buying. You know, it might be a pig in a poke. That's another thing as far as pig in a poke. But you many times are not able to go see the home. Now, I do find that a lot of times doors seem to get left open, and maybe you're trespassing, but somebody has gone on into the property to kind of look it over. It's if you have that opportunity to see a property, it's great for you to do that, because you kind of see what shape is it in. You know, sure, if I pay $35,000 for this house, how much money am I going to put into it for me to live in it? Or if you're going to become what we call a flipper, you know, how much money is it going to take for me to bring it up to the state where somebody can purchase it? So those things, you don't know about the plumbing. You know, you're looking to see, did it have a heat pump, or has that been stolen? Have all the copper pipes in the basement disappeared? You know, why is all this water in the floor? Well, look up above. Maybe the pipes are all gone. You know, it's crazy things like that. And you can't turn the power on to check these things out. So that's why sometimes if you're really anxious to buy something pretty cheap, it's a lot less risk when it comes on the multiple listing service.
Sure. Absolutely. So it kind of goes back to anytime you're looking to buy a home, being prepared, being informed, doing your research, and having your finances in order.
Oh, yeah.
But as we've said many other times before, getting with a good realtor that you really mesh with is also very important.
Get them to be watching out for you and help. And a lot of these homes have been on our market, and then maybe it didn't sell because the person maybe owed too much. You know, they're upside down and they're trying to get out of it enough to pay off the loan and move on. But if they find that they're way upside down, you know, there's some folks that have a huge mortgage, you know, almost 95%, and how this happened, but this is some of our previous history. They've got an equity line on it too, and they've run that equity line up as high You know, that goes back into the days that I always said people use their equity lines like it was going to the bank,
Sure.
like free money. You know, it was so easy to get at one time, and so they're way underwater because a lot of those equity lines, they didn't have the equity in it,
Right.
but yet they were allowed, and so a lot of issues, but we don't have all of that anymore. Because the banks and everybody has learned from that, is let's don't get ourselves in that hot water again. So, but anyway, a lot of these homes have been on our market, and maybe they tried to do what we call the short sale. We don't hear many of short sales anymore. That's when the bank is going to forgive you for part of that maybe mortgage that you had. That's why you're going to come up short. In other words, your house was appraised now for $100,000, but my loans on it are $140,000. So the bank realizes that, hey, if you can get $100,000 for that house, let's sell it. It's going to cost me less in the long run. So some of those, as I say, we don't see as much of that right now, but some of those homes have been on our market, and we're very familiar with them. Now, yes, we saw the house maybe 8 years ago, and it was pristine, whereas you go in it now, and it's been damaged, you know, whether pipes or whatever's wrong with it. So just because it was great 8 years ago does not mean it's going to be good right now. However, if you can look and see the potential in it, and you know yourself that I can replace the plumbing, I can put in, or you maybe not going to do it, but you can pay somebody, you get a plumber, you get an electrician, you get the HVAC person, and bring that house back to a wonderful home, and maybe you haven't spent as much on it as what the value of it is, then you're in good shape, you know, and you feel good about your purchase and what you did.
Absolutely. Well, Betty, we thank you for coming out bright and early on this Monday morning. Lots
good.
of great information. Hopefully that cleared up some issues that people had. Again, warning people to be cautious, but cautious in the sense of do your research, know what you're getting into, not cautious of stay away, don't do.
Yeah.
Just do that with the foreclosures. Also, just having your ducks in a row, whether you're buying or selling. It's all about the finances, having them in order. And if you're selling that home, having it ready to show it at a moment's notice. It's kind of the same thing each month, but it comes down to the common sense of real estate.
Right, right. And real estate is going well, and that's a driver in the economy. So we're happy for that. Just wish that the inventory was a little better. But things have picked up. Folks will say, is it a good time to sell? Yes, it's a good time to sell. We're headed into March. I mean, we're, again, typically the spring market is the greatest, and it is a good time to sell if somebody's interested and they know where they're going.
Absolutely. And, you know, speaking from firsthand experience, when you guys, yourself and Bob, come down to do the show on Tuesday, you're always getting calls in that hour and a half that you're here, before and after, in between the shows. So, I mean, that just shows that there's things that are happening.
It's busy.
So it's like you said, it's a good time. And as you said, just keeping your ducks in a row and keeping things moving in the right direction, being prepared.
Be prepared.
Absolutely.
Be prepared.
Well, again, we appreciate you coming on with us, and maybe get together next month and talk about something a little bit different.
See where it's going.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, we're going to take another break, fill up that coffee mug, and we're going to be back with some great announcements of events that are coming up here in and around Franklin County. So we're going to be right back with more Rise and Shine right here on your Neighborhood Network, Cable 12.